Hello, gamers. Today is Monday, October 2nd, 2023, and we're ready for our next new war game. First time played, we're going to be playing, or rather, I'm going to be playing Cruel Necessity, the English Civil Wars, 1640 to 1653, by Victory Point Games, designed by John Welsh. Okay, I'll set that aside for the moment. Lovely. And this, as you may have already noticed, is the older version of the game. This is not the latest version of the game. And I seem to have moved the map board in doing that. Let me reset. There we are, that's better. In filming my opening video clip with the rules in front of me, I messed up my map board, and I can't have a messed up map board, so I've straightened it up. Right, so yes, this is the earlier edition. It's not the latest deluxe edition of the game. I'm not aware. I get the impression that the latest deluxe edition of the game, I'm pretty sure it's pretty well the same game. I don't know that there are a lot of different rules, but anyway, off we go. So this is my first State of Siege game. Yeah, I understand that there are a number of them, and this is my first one. So another Solitaire by design game, and I've never played I don't think I've ever played a board game based on the English Civil War before. I've played some miniature battles. And I've got lots of miniatures, and I hope to put together some sort of campaign one day. I don't know if I could somehow be integrated into this lot, but yes. I've also been watching a few YouTube videos, and I should mention specially, I'll just check it now. I want to get the name of the channel correct. The channel is Board Games, War Games and Miniatures. I think the presenter's name is Tad, and he was doing a playthrough of this using the latest version, which to me looks like it just has sort of somewhat nicer board and nicer components. But excellent presentation. So I've read the rules. And I've watched his videos, so we've got a pretty good idea of how it works, and we're just going to get started and jump in. And so we've got everything set up here. We've got our, as we can see, we've got our fortified cities. Okay, and Edinburgh up there. And we've also got our armies of the West, Royalist Army of the West, Royalist Army of the North, pro-Royalist Scottish forces, pro-Royalist Irish forces. And then we've got our political and religious status sliders going on there. We need to get them as far up as we can. And keep them out of the Fs. There we go. Then we've got, let's see, what else do we have? Our Zeal Point track. Card deck. Divers, to use a 17th century word, divers markers. Then we've got our cavalry, or Royalist cavalry, certainly not ours. Royalist foot with an E, spelled with an E. Then we've got parliamentary cavalry, parliamentary foot, spelled with an E, and also the named parliamentary units. We've got Ironsides, Cromwell, New Model Army, and London Train Bands. Bless them. And our battle event cards. Yeah, so interesting general mechanisms in this game. It occurred to me that it's in a way it's kind of like the opposite of Field Commander Alexander by DBG Games, in which the one scenario that I've played so far in now, which was a lot of fun, very good, was I think it was the Granicus campaign, which is probably the first campaign in the box, as it were. And but the key thing is that the basically the enemy doesn't move. You just sort of set forth and you go sort of invading and conquering, and the enemy basically doesn't move. He can do a lot of interesting things, and you have a lot of interesting choices to make. But the enemy essentially sort of stays put, and you move into a new territory and you do battle with him. Whereas in this game, of course, it is a state of siege game. So in this game, it's more sort of, it feels more like, well, you don't really move either. You don't, no, or, sorry, in this case, you don't move, and the enemy's sort of coming at you. So, the Scots are coming at you, the Army of the West are coming at you from down in Cornwall, and the Army of the North are coming down from up north, and they're coming down to get you in London, because, you're based, you've got a lot of bases in London, right? And, well, you've also got the Irish over here, and they're trying to get over. And, there's probably going to be a lot of voices in this presentation. A lot of scope, So they're all coming at you. Now, of course, you can't abstractly do things to their armies. You can attack you can just choose to spend a zeal point and attack that army there. You can spend a zeal point and attack Oxford if you're allowed to attack it. If you've been given a signal, you're allowed to besiege it. And you don't sort of move a piece there to do that. You just sort of intrinsically do it. Your forces are assumed to be in place, as it were. So interesting stuff. Beyond which, I think we should just sort of press on. Well, here we are. The game is underway. I was just thinking, unlike other games, normally I would say, right now, the date is so-and-so, and it's turn so, but it doesn't really work that way. I've gone through 7 cards here, so I suppose that means I've gone through 7 turns. And let's see, how are things going? Hard to say, because I'm not really, well, obviously I don't know how to judge. Am I doing well? Am I not doing well? Anyway, let's see. What have we got? We've managed to, the Scots have been kept at bay. I mean, they've come down this way many times, of course, and they've been pushed back many times, and they're back up in the Highlands now. The Royalist Army of the North is in position number 4, so that means they can move right here to York and besiege Hull. Okay, I don't know if I've managed to push them back. I think I've kind of left them alone because they haven't moved very often. Let's see, these two, they start out with a value of 2, so I've improved their fortifications to 3. The Army of the West has been very active, has been down this way many times, and we even had an uprising back here in Cornwall as well. Has been threatening Bristol. And so I've been pounding on them, sending them back, often by purchasing a +1 zeal and using it on campaign against them. Oxford is now allowed to be besieged, so when I've got some points, I'll be working on that as well. Let's see, the Irish are in Dublin, and then on the markers, let's see. Monarchy is all the way down in the F zone. We don't like things in the F zone. Was it 4 of those, and I've lost the game. So we've got to try and get them up. Other than that, pretty medium over here, I suppose. Battles, we've had 2 battles. They were interesting. Some interesting tactical choices there with bits and pieces that you can play with. And we've had event cards come up that make a difference as well. We don't have any named parliamentary units available yet. I mistakenly set those up there. They only go there when they become available, and that's through events. And let's see, what else? So we did have, Newcastle's White Coats over here, we can see. They were actually defeated in battle. And then when we rolled for the deadly outcomes to see what happened to them, they were indeed permanently removed from play. So presumably they were chased by the forces of Parliament, and there was unspeakable slaughter. I mean, presumably. Other than that, what else have we got? Oh, we've got one achievement available for purchase up here, but to do it, I would, let's see, we'd have to have greater than equal to B, status B on monarchy and Parliament, and we'd have to have the petition of right, which we haven't even seen yet. As I say, monarchy and Parliament greater than equal to B. Well, there's monarchy, okay, and there's B up there, and there's Parliament, and there's B up there. So a long way to go to get that for sure. I've been playing the game, and as things come up, terms with which I'm not familiar. For example, along comes unrest in London, and then along comes religious reaction. I just looked them up and perform them. There doesn't seem to be so much of, I suppose it's the way the game is structured. Normally, of course, if you go into a game, not having a firm grasp of all the rules, it can mean that from your very first turn, you can be making very bad moves because you're not taking into consideration things that you either haven't read the rules on or have a very poor grasp of. That may be the case with me. It may be that I've been spending too much units sending armies back when instead I should be fortifying positions or something like that. But anyway, it's very interesting. It's going smoothly. On a note, apart from the gameplay, I don't know what the new version would be like to have. I mean, of course, I've seen it in pictures and movies, but I have to say the components are absolutely excellent. No, it's not it's a sheet of card. The map is a sheet of card. It's not a sheet of paper, or very thick paper, or very thin card. But there is a big difference between that and a sheet of paper, I have to say, because I've played some games. If you've been watching the channel only recently, I've played some games, new games and all, that have been printed on paper. And I understand that if they print on thick card, of course, it adds to the cost, it adds to the weight, and all this sort of thing. Of course, there's a world of difference in the experience when you do that, as opposed to playing on paper. But I will say there's also a world of difference playing on this nice thick sheet of thick sheet of card, thin sheet of paper, thick sheet of paper, thin sheet of card. Because it doesn't buckle, and it's got a nice finish on it too, so it's not all shiny, unlike a game I played recently. And so it's sitting. The interesting thing is I also got this sheet of perspex. Got it to order. I couldn't find anything the right size that would be nice and cheap, so I did get it to order. It's splendid. I've tried laying it on the top of things, and it works very well. One does get a glare of the light. Unfortunately, the light in the ceiling in this room bounces directly into my face if I've got this thing in play. Would be about sort of there, as it were. But so what I did was I just left it on the table because I don't really have any safe place to store it flat, except on the tabletop at the moment. So I've left it there. But here's the added bonus. Having put these sheets on top of it, now, of course, this is going to be made nonsense by what happened at the beginning when the map moved unintentionally. But no, it's got a bit of a grip to it. So it's strange. It seems to sort of grip the paper quite well. So if you sort of move, it's like right now, if I push down on that to try and move it, it's not moving at all. So it's like it's got quite a grip to it. So and it's not because it's sticky or anything. I mean, what are we going to get into physics? I mean, come on. There isn't time. I mean, I enjoy physics, but there isn't time to get into it. So anyway, yeah, there we go. I'm enjoying it, and I'm also hungry, so I'm going to stop now and probably end this for this evening, and then we'll be pressing on in the next few days. So it's very interesting, um, and we've had two battles, and the battle because the battles have been fairly infrequent. It does make me think, ooh, that could be played out as a simple war game with miniatures war game to get my nice shiny ECW units out. That's English Civil War, which have hardly ever seen battle. And I was thinking of knocking together a variant of the miniatures rules De Bellis Antiquitatis to use DBA, in other words, to use in a sort of simplified system to be able to do that. And I could base it on, I suppose I could do it based on the strengths of the units that show up in here. Another thing I thought about too, though, was in the battle. I'm tempted to think about. I mean, obviously, you're playing by yourself, so you can please yourself, and I was thinking about in the battle some little house rules that you could add on to it, simple rules that you could add on to it that would give you a bit more control over what happened in battle. So you could take risks. You could perhaps spend more zeal points to buy extra things to take risks. As it is, you can buy that marker, of course, and assign it to one unit, which is fine. But of course, it tends to make very little difference to the battle. And I have seen that someone wrote. I just saw one instance of this, but somebody did write. A lot of the battles are draws, and of course, you can say, well, many of the battles in the English Civil War were indecisive. Very good. But of course, you've also then got the game factor as well, so it'd be nice to see some, it'd be nice to have a crushing victory once in a while if you spent the zeal points on it or if you did something clever on the battlefield. So, yes, I've definitely thought about possibly tinkering with that already. But we shall see. Other than that, here's to it. And, well, we'll be back shortly. Well, here we are at the end of the game. I've been crushed. I've lost. We can see that if there are 4 markers in the F zone, when you come to compute things at the end times phase of the turn, then you have lost. And we've got Ireland, monarchy, Catholicism, and Parliament are all in the F zone. The turn began with Puritanism in the F zone as well. We managed to get that out. And all we did was try to get Parliament out, and we never could. Couldn't move it one slot. Marvellous. Isn't it marvellous? Anyway, so yes, we lost on the sort of political, the forces of opposition and despair, and the forces of godly rule and republicanism were out of balance. And so of course you could look at that and say, well, maybe I was unlucky, or maybe I didn't spend enough zeal points on pushing these markers back. I was aware of them the whole time. I tried to spread myself fairly equally between managing fortifications, pushing back the enemy armies, and keeping an eye on the political situation. But in the end was overcome by the situation. Let's see. We had statistics. I believe we had perhaps 5 battles. I've got 14 cards here, so we might roughly call that 14 turns. Well, it is 14 turns, actually. I think we had 4 or 5 battles. 1 was a defeat. 3 were draws. Let's see, the Royalists did lose 1 named counter there. The was it Newcastle's White Coats suffered unspeakable slaughter. And let's see, as far as achievements go, 4 cards were revealed. So one of them, that one there, the position of right, which looked very difficult to achieve, that got booted out of here. So I haven't got those achievements. They're up there for sale, as it were, to be achieved. Yes. Let's see, what else? Looking at the map, we can see that the Irish have made it all the way to here. They were kicked back once and they come back again. That means the Irish Troubles are in effect, which means that something bad happens in each one of these lanes where the Irish Trouble marker is, and then you move it over to the next one. That sort of thing. It's all dark. It's all grim. Let's see. We have the Army of the West. They came up to Somerset many times, bounced back and forth. Never made it past Bristol. They did take Bristol once, but that was basically because it showed up on a card to besiege it. But I quickly kicked them back out again and took back possession of Bristol. Hull has always been in the hands of Parliament. These chaps here have come to this position. Yes, they've chipped away at Hull, but they've never taken it. The Scots finally overran Edinburgh, which we can see there, and they've come all the way down here into the Northumberland, so they're actually in England. And when they're there, then it's never actually happened yet, but if they should activate, then they give that activation point instead, they give it to the Army of the North. So that means the Army of the North has even more force behind it, pushing it southward towards London. London was reduced to 0 by unrest on 2 occasions, I believe, and as we can see, I built it back up slightly with as much as I could afford. Just 1 second. Let's see what else. In terms of status and statistics, we can see the battle event deck. One of the cards that appeared due to an event being on one of the units instructed me to reshuffle the deck. So that occurred once. Then over there in the parliamentary named units, we still have none of the named units available, which of course has not helped us in battle at all. So the battle, as I say, I mean, I think it was something like 3 draws and 1 defeat. So not a lot of oomph there. And of course, when you do get defeated, bad things happen. There's a lot of bad things happening in this game. A lot of bad things happening to Parliament. Okay. So then, in terms of course, it's interesting to contrast this because the game I played before this was the splendid Solitaire by Design D-Day at Peleliu. And then before that was just a solo playing of Normandy 44, which is not at all Solitaire by Design. Traditional, as you might say, hex and counter operation. And the big difference between this game and those 2 games is that this game, I don't know, in terms of study, read the rules, set it up, do all that sort of thing, starting absolutely from scratch. I'd say I personally needed about 2 or 3 hours of prep to get that done. And then actually playing the game, I think I've played it for probably a grand total of about maybe an hour and a half in this first go at it, as opposed to D-Day at Peleliu, which I played over. I only played the 12 turn scenario of that, the small one, in other words, and that probably, easily would have taken me, 12 hours perhaps. I do tend to ponder over things, in fairness. And then the Normandy 44, I played that over a period of weeks. I don't know how many actual hours of play, but it was a long time, and I only played 7 turns of that. So this is a completely different kettle of fish. It is solitaire by design, but it's also a very a relatively short game and a simple game too. Because I mean, when you're taking your turn, how long does it take? That's an interesting point, I suppose, because it's solitaire by design. How long does it take to take your turn? Because of course, I mean, there's a lot going on the royalist front. So in each turn, I mean, they're not necessarily balanced, of course. It could be that to do the AI, as it were, to do the enemy, who knows? It might take, in any particular game, it might take 10 minutes to do the enemy, and then it takes 5 minutes to do your turn. One thing I did find in, for example, D-Day at Peleliu was that there's quite a lot of work you have to do to do all the moves of the AI. But then when it is your turn, there is a lot to do. And the one thing I would say about this game is that the decisions that you have to make. I mean, of course, I lost, so I'm not the best person in the world to form these opinions. But it seemed to me that the decisions that you